Hey there, guys and gals. Today is my core day training montage here in Eastern Kentucky. Today the weather is not too bad, but it wasn't the best. It was about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, about 0 degrees Celsius. And, at that temperature, that's the temperature that water freezes. And it's also, around the temperature where it thaws out and melts. So it was kind of messy out. It wasn't raining, it wasn't snowing, but where it had snowed, there was a kind of a, it was just a little bit of ice and a little bit of not ice. So it was a little bit slick in places and not so slick in others. I had actually shoveled, before I started working out today. I kind of cleared off a little spot to work out, and it was still pretty slick. So couldn't really get into a whole lot of shadow boxing today, but that's all right. I didn't post yesterday because yesterday I had physical therapy, and physical therapy is kind of starting to get a little more intense. They have me doing like mini pistol squats now, which is great. It's great to get closer back to where I'll be able to do my own leg days, my leg day training videos. Those mini pistol squats are kind of squatting down until there's about 45 degrees of flexion in my knee, on the the one side that's doing all the lifting. I've done those one time now, and my leg on both sides, and I could tell that I hadn't done pistol squats in a while because both sides were shaking very bad. But that's good, as long as your form is correct and everything feels good. It's good when you do something and it makes you shake, because when you're shaking, that means that you're challenging the muscle enough. So long story short, shaking equals gains. Anyways, just kind of wanted to quick mention that. Every time I go out and work out here in the past couple weeks, I feel better than I did previously. And I'm very happy and I'm very thankful to be able to say that. I'm really liking these changes that I've been making to my training regimen, where I'm kind of taking it easy on things that, cause irritation, things that bother me. I had to stretch out with the smaller band today because my wife had taken the orange band, but that's okay. I just, I may do with what I got. But anyways, my workouts have been feeling better every time I work out, and that positively reinforces my thought process and the decisions I've made on how I'm taking my training. I'm putting things that at first thought I thought were just fine for me to practice, but over time, they were a bit too difficult of a progression, and it's good that I have went down a few progressions on some things. I felt better today. I felt stronger and healthier today. Health equals strength, sort of, but not really. If your body is healthy, if your joints are healthy, muscles, connective tissues are healthy, you're going to be stronger and you're going to perform better in the things that you do. And that in turn, that gives you, some positive psychology. You're going to be in a better mood. You're going to be a happier person. You're going to enjoy training more. And, that's the big thing with calisthenics is, some people say it's not fun, but perhaps they're like I was, and perhaps they're not doing the appropriate level progression, the appropriate difficulty level. just remember that it's better to pick something that is too easy to do and become an absolute master at that exercise than it is to pick something that's a bit too difficult and sacrifice form and rep quality to try to be able to do it. That does not lead to good things over time, I promise. But anyways, I think I'm coming towards the end, at least of the 6-rep warm-up. And I've been kind of focusing warming up a little bit more as well. I don't know if that's just where it's cold or if that's just something, good to keep in mind in general. But you can never really warm up too much. I mean, you can, but if you feel tired after your warm up, then you probably warmed up too much, and so try to cut back a little bit next time. But really warm up all your joints, especially around your shoulders, your spine and core, because all those muscles are going to be used, all those joints are going to be used, connective tissues, and the better warmed up you are, the better you're going to perform, and that's always a good thing. I have really been working, and taking things slower. I have been focusing more on technique, focusing more on my posture, and I feel like that's really helping me. It's helping me be a healthier, happier athlete, and hobbyist athlete. And with calisthenics, we're all about functional strength, and I felt like I've been more functionally strong. Like I'm able to perform better at the skills that I practice, and I've had more fun. I'll quit rambling about that. I'll try to talk a bit more about what's going on in my mind while I do things today. If you'll notice, I'm really focusing on having good posture, keeping my shoulders down and locked. Really focusing on being in control of my movements. Like here, I'm making sure I'm engaging my scapula properly before I start the pull-ups. And this is just a warm up. This is not the working sets or skills or anything. And here I'm making sure I have great protraction in my shoulders, in my scapulas, getting properly positioned on the mat there. And I'm making sure that when I do those hollow body holds, that my back is flush with the ground. You should not be able to put your hand under your back when you're in that position. Here, I felt great in front lever today. I almost felt like I should go to the next progression. I felt very strong here. And like I've said in previous videos, my strategy when it comes to skill practice, I do 2 sets. The first set is the most difficult and challenging progression I can do for 1 to 3 seconds. And then the second set is the easy version of the full thing. Like here I'm trying to do a full front lever, but I'm using a band to make it easy. I think I should have got a bit bigger of a band. So I dropped to the tucked position. And anyways, the idea with the second attempt is that you should be able to hold it for 10 to 20 seconds. It should be easy. So that difficult attempt and then that easy attempt over time, they will kind of merge together, and you'll be able to do the full, full skill without the assistance, or at least that's the idea. Here I kind of threw this clip in of me trying to figure out how I was going to train human flag today. It's a bit clumsy, but just playing around, just trying to figure out what I want to do. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to play around and try to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. I sped this up on 2 times speed. not a whole lot of progress is made here. I guess depending on how you look at it. I did make progress in learning that this wasn't the way to go about training human flags. Anyways, getting rid of that band, I'm just going to try kicking straight up. And I actually impressed myself here. Felt very strong. Look at that. That is progress made. On the other side, it didn't go quite as well, but I still felt a lot better than I had been with the inflammation in my right shoulder. That felt better today. It did feel, like it was saying, hey, I don't really like this position the most, but it wasn't anything like it had been, when I was training full body weight, one arm pull-up negatives or anything. So I decided to listen. I decided to go to the 45-degree human flags. And, I actually done a working set later on, when we get out of skill practice that involved this. But I felt at home here. I felt comfortable. And I think I'm going, like I was saying at the beginning, I'm going to try to master this 45-degree flag hold, possibly even to where I am doing like tucked raises and things. I want to absolutely master that position before I try, going to like a full vertical position, full vertical grab. Here's back lever. And I feel really good at this skill. I'm not perfect at it by any means, but this is one of my better skills that I can do, at least on core day. It's pretty much a full back lever. Just got to work on, maybe going down just the tiniest little bit more and holding it for some time under tension. But here's that second attempt, and again, the idea here is to do something that's a bit easier. I want to make that back lever easy, but I want to hold it for longer, so I went from full to straddle to advanced. I guess you'd call that like a half lay back lever, and I was holding, for some time under tension. Here we're getting into the working sets. I really love the leg raises. I used to do them on the parallel bars, but I really love doing them on the rings. Now I'm focused on working my core here. I'm trying to crunch at the top, trying to get my legs up higher and higher. But that really requires a lot of shoulder and scapula stability on the rings. So you don't fall and bust your bottom or bust your head. But if you take it slow and you really focus on maintaining posture, where you're not sinking into your shoulders, if you keep those scapulas, down and locked, or back and locked, and really, work on crunching at the top of these. This is actually a great exercise for your core. It's great, also for shoulder stabilization, which is something that will carry over into other areas of calisthenics. It's definitely feeling the fatigue there, but these felt like appropriate level. They were definitely challenging, but they felt appropriate level. Here's a quick picture I took while I was walking around. Just look at the mountains. The scenery was beautiful today here in eastern Kentucky. Like I said, there was some ice, but it was very pretty out. Anyways, back to the workout. Here's my second working exercise. And here I was, I wanted something that would involve the obliques. So I tried these 45-degree flag holds, and I decided I would do like these, something where I was kicking my legs out. That would more so involve my my core. On this first one, I took both legs out evenly, and on the second attempt, I still kind of do the same thing, but in my mind, I was trying to keep the bottom leg, where it was at and only move the top leg. And you'll see how that went here in this clip. So I was trying to keep that bottom leg from moving. Newton's laws, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If a force is pushing down, a force is pushing up, etc., etc. So it's very difficult to, prevent that bottom leg from moving. But I actually really liked this exercise as a working set. I could definitely feel this in my obliques when I got down. And I feel like this will also really carry into human flag training, because in order to do this exercise, I'm having to maintain that 45-degree hold. Everything felt great, shoulders, scapulas, everything felt great on both sides. And that's the goal at the end of the day, is to be strong, be healthy, and enjoy what you're doing. Here is these back extensions. Tried to kind of slow these down a little bit today, kind of like I've been talking about, overall with my workouts. Slowing them down a bit, working on technique, time under tension, making sure I'm not injuring myself. That's something I've always loved about calisthenics, compared to, weightlifting or cable machines, is calisthenics not only involves being strong, it also involves a lot of your brain. And I'm not saying that those other, methods of working out don't involve any thought, but calisthenics, it involves a lot of your brain. You have to really think about what you're doing. It involves a lot of coordination. Like, it's one thing to do a dumbbell curl, but to think about doing like muscle ups or iron cross or handstands, those, I would argue, require a lot more thought than, lifting a weight. But I'm not saying that, lifting weights are wrong or bad. To each their own. We're all passionate about different things, but that is just something that I've always really loved about calisthenics. It's a skill, even the working sets, in a way, depending on how you look at them, are skills as well. And it involves a lot of skill, and over time, you work at it, get better at it. And that's the kind of thing I like. That's my cup of tea. And that's a lot of other people's cups of tea as well, so to say. But no matter what you do, like I was saying, the goal at the end of the day is to be happy and healthy and feel good about yourself, feel good about what you're doing, and enjoy life, while we're here and have the opportunity to do so. It's warmed up a little bit. It's probably like, around 35 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe like 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, over the time of my workout here. A lot of the ice has melted off at this point, but it's still not the nicest conditions, but it honestly doesn't feel bad, temperature wise, compared to how it has been here lately. But stretched out, loosening up. My workout is over. Working on some balance as well there. There's a lot of different aspects to fitness besides just being strong, and that's something to always remember. Try to be flexible. You try to get flexible while you're young and maintain it throughout your whole life. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Happy training. Hopefully this is helpful. And stay strong. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.